that concept of a square deal approach is going to be really important for you to understand, especially as Teddy Roosevelt is preparing to leave office as the 1900s come to a close, and William Howard Taft is preparing to take control in 1909, the fall of 1909, with his term starting in 2000 or in 1910. So William Howard Taft is actually handpicked by Teddy Roosevelt, and you can kind of even see that here in this little image where Teddy actually says up on top, here's Teddy right over on the right hand side. He says, "Oh, here you go, Bill, the William Howard Taft, 1908, getting the nomination, right? And then off he goes to become president. And then something's going to happen because 4 years later, or just a little bit later, I should say, now all of a sudden you have Teddy Roosevelt, with his gun and pistol here, saying to William Howard Taft, hand it back, right? Give me back the nomination of the Republican Party. So something happens where Teddy Roosevelt looks at William Howard Taft and what Taft is doing and says, that dude is doing it wrong. And what exactly is Taft doing wrong? He completely abandons the concept of square deal politics and common sense politics. He will go after big business twice as much as Roosevelt did. So Taft is going to say, you know what? Forget big business. Twice as much as Roosevelt did. Taft is going to go and he's going to try and go after all kinds of trusts, whether that's going to be trusts like the railroads, like you can see in that cartoon in the upper left of that slide. He's going to go after them, whether it's U.S. Steel, a huge steel company in the 1900s. You can see the United Steelworkers postcard there for their union. He's going to go after them. And Roosevelt really believes that if Taft keeps this up, that system of cooperation and regulation that was on slide 1, that's going to get destroyed because businesses won't trust the government anymore to keep its promises. Taft said, or Roosevelt said rather, that if you do what I tell you, I'll leave you alone. Well, Taft doesn't play by those rules. Companies that Roosevelt said would be okay are sued and broken up by Taft. So Roosevelt's really, really upset, especially when some of Roosevelt's favorite people that he put into power, like Gifford Pinchot of the Forest Service, are fired for insubordination when they refuse to do what Taft tells them to do. Now, I don't blame Taft for firing those people, for firing people that are insubordinate, for being disobedient, but Roosevelt really sees this from the perspective of a personal insult. So in Roosevelt's mind, you got this guy Taft who is completely messing with the common sense approach, and he's going to undo all the work that Roosevelt himself did. This is really going to inspire Roosevelt to return to run for another term of office as president as the 19-teens begin. So we're going to take a look at that in more detail coming up at a different lesson, but I think this does give us a pretty good foundation for the first two presidents of the Progressive Era anyway, of how they're going to focus on some of the big issues of society that are really causing some hurt.